So let's discuss non-scale victories when it comes to the carnivore diet. What's shaking, bacon? My name is Bruno Panucci. I've been doing this carnivore diet consistently for a year and a third. I've been doing it on and off for a few years, since 2018, and I was doing extremely low carb on and off before that. In total, I've lost over 150 pounds. Now, I mentioned in my last video, I put on over 20 pounds in just a couple of weeks because I switched from lean ground beef to regular ground beef, and I didn't account for the extra calories. But it doesn't bother me because I know that weight loss is going to happen. I've actually already lost about 8 pounds. Now, I don't pay too much attention to the scale, but I do use it to measure non-scale victories. So what's a non-scale victory? Well, if you're always weighing yourself, some people are in the habit of weighing themselves every single day or once a week or once a month. And what happens is it can really get discouraging because when you're exercising and trying to maybe lose weight or adjust your diet in one way, shape, or form, you can start to notice the scale might actually go up or it holds and you've been putting all this effort in for the last 2 weeks or 6 weeks and it doesn't look like it's moved at all. So it gets really frustrating. But why does it have to be frustrating? It shouldn't be frustrating because you should be learning from it. So I bet near you, you can type in a Google search and type in bod pods near me. And a bod pod is a machine that measures your lean mass and your body fat. It tells you your resting metabolic rate. It's a good idea if you're exercising to maybe start with one of those. They're not expensive. They're cheaper than a DEXA scan and they're just as accurate. And more importantly, there's no x-rays with them. So it's something maybe you should consider looking at. Now, when you have this as your foundation, when you start losing weight, what it does is it helps give you an idea if you're going in a good or bad direction. So every month or 2 months or 6 months, you can touch base with that machine and go there and get a scan. And then you can find out if what you were doing was working. The beauty of a bod pod is it's giving you a foundation, a starting point, and it's helping you to understand when the scale doesn't move, what's happening underneath the skin. So you get your weight tested there as well as your body fat and lean mass. If you're on a scale and the scale doesn't really move, well, let's break down some other benefits you might have after, say, just a month of doing something like a carnivore diet, really any healthy way of eating or lifestyle change, with, say, a little bit of weight training and maybe some walking in there. So let's discuss what a non-scale victory is. A non-scale victory is when the scale stays the same, or maybe it even went up a little bit, or you only lost like a pound, but you've got some other things that have happened in your day-to-day life that have changed for the positive. Let's go with a time frame of, say, 4 to 6 weeks. So up to a 6-week window, if the scale hasn't really moved too much, but you've been putting all this work in, let's talk about some of the things that you might be dismissing in your day-to-day activities that you're downplaying in your mind because you're so focused on the scale. The scale is one small aspect of what you're doing. It really doesn't account for that much, especially if you're exercising. So let's go over quite a few small scale victories that you might notice after just 4 to 6 weeks of clean eating as well as a moderate amount of exercise. What you might notice are some non-scale victories around the house with your endurance. Maybe being able to walk up the flight of stairs or 2 flights of stairs and not being quite as winded because you're not carrying as much fat around with you because you've probably put on lean mass. So you might notice from that moderate exercise you're doing as well as eating clean, your joints aren't as stiff. So when you run up a flight of stairs or 2, doesn't really bother you as much as it did just a few weeks ago. So that's a non-scale victory. The scale hasn't changed, but yet your day-to-day endurance seems better. Or maybe even house cleaning. You might just notice it just doesn't tire you out as much. You get done, say 2 hours of house cleaning and you're not just lying there going, oh, I just need to lie down. You just still have some energy to go do some other things. And that's something that we consider a non-scale victory. Also, a higher endurance with exercise. If you do something like a HIIT workout, or even you're walking of, say, 15 or 20 minutes after your meals, or just at the end of the day, or maybe at the start of your day, you might notice you have a faster pace, or you get to the end of that walk and you're not as tired as you once were a few weeks ago. Your legs aren't as tired, they're not as sore. You feel better. Instead of feeling tired after that moderate amount of exercise, you feel a little more invigorated. There is a non-scale victory. When you're doing something like HIIT workouts and you notice by the end of the month, that workout that had you exhausted at the beginning of the month now isn't quite as bad. At the end of the workout, you're not huffing and puffing as bad. You can pump out more push-ups in that exercise window. You can pump out more burpees, or you can do more lunges, and it's not quite as exhausting and you're not as winded. Those are non-scale victories. So along with that is getting stronger. When you're doing a moderate amount of weight resistance or with your own body weight as exercise, you notice you can do more. You can push a little bit more. You can pull a little bit more. It's not as tiring. What was once tough to do 8 reps of, now you can do 10 or 12 reps of. That's a non-scale victory. You've put on muscle and lean mass to let you do that. You've lowered your blood sugar so that you can do that. You're burning up glycogen so you can do that. These are all non-scale victories. The one everyone really wants, losing inches on your arms, losing inches on your legs, around your butt. It's different for everybody, depending on where they usually accumulate most of their fat. That's usually the first place they're going to lose it. Just in my opinion, when people lose weight, it ends around the midsection. At least for guys it does. You know, they get leaner up top, they get leaner in the legs, and the last thing to go is usually the biggest part, which is the stomach, right? So it kind of works like this. As you lose weight, you get healthy, you start to look healthier at the top and bottom, and then you get kind of leaner and leaner in your midsection, and your midsection is often the last to go. Losing inches is one way you can measure a non-scale victory. If you exercised, maybe you did a lot of exercise for the month, but after a month or 6 weeks, you haven't lost a pound, but you've lost 4 inches on your waist or 2 inches on your waist, or some people might even lose 6 inches on their waist. Those are great non-scale victories. Those are the ones everyone's trying to go for. You have to get out of the mindset that you want to lose weight. You want to lose inches. Inches, not pounds, is what I always say to people. Inches, not pounds. Repeat that over and over again. When you see that scale barely budging, you have to remember inches, not pounds. When you can see a physical difference in your muscle mass, you can start to see that maybe after 6 weeks. Now, I can always feel the difference in my arms, as example, or my legs, way before I could see the difference because I'm a big guy. Up until the last couple of weeks, I was around 320 pounds. And with that, I can tell the difference in the thickness of my arms, in my chest, in my back. I can feel that thickness of muscle mass. If you're a guy and your jackets are getting tighter in the chest, back, and shoulders, but they fit a little bit better in the waist, that's a non-scale victory. You're putting on lean mass in all the right places. And typically, when I exercise and eat clean, I put on lean mass much faster than I lose the fat. So a jacket that once fit suddenly doesn't fit too well in the chest, back, and shoulders, but it starts to feel better around the waist. So that's typically what happens, and then the weight loss starts to speed up afterwards. So you get a little bit bigger sometimes because the muscle is pushing that fat out because you're building lean mass, and the fat loss sometimes takes a little bit longer to happen. That's usually a good indication that you're going in the right direction. When you start getting better sleep right away, especially with people who do a zero-carb carnivore diet and they knock out all the artificial sugars as well, the snoring goes away dramatically. So in the first week or two, there's usually a dramatic difference from going to a zero-carb diet. And when your snoring goes away, your sleep quality is so much better. And when your sleep is better, you're just going to be in a better mood. When you wake up, your blood sugar isn't going to be all over the place. You're going to be more excited to handle the day. You're going to be ready to tackle it. You're not going to be waking up groggy. Your blood sugar and your hormones are going to be better balanced. So they're always a little high in the morning when it comes to adrenaline and cortisol and your blood sugar. But typically that's supposed to go down. And that's where a morning walk or a little exercise regime isn't such a bad idea. And that's a non-scale victory, which leads us into our next one, just more day-to-day energy. You don't get as tired through the day. You have more stamina to handle your day, maybe keeping up with the kids or just doing your job. Maybe you have a physically demanding job. Maybe you have a mentally demanding job. But when you're thinking more clearly and you have more energy to manage those problems, they don't seem quite as overwhelming and you don't get quite as stressed. So everything just starts to balance like calm waters versus where you were before, where it's just like tidal waves coming in and they're crashing all the time. You don't want that. We want calm waters. That's a non-scale victory. Just having more day-to-day endurance with your children and life and family. All your responsibilities just get managed a little bit easier. If there's one thing people say when they go zero carb or even keto, they always say the difference between those and any other way of eating they've done is the mental clarity. They think clearer. They tend to be sharper and have less brain fog. And that also leads into managing depression. Clear thinking is definitely a non-scale victory. People who manage their depression and anxiety through carnivore, it's very common. Lots of people mention that before they even get too much weight loss happening, their depression clears up. And that's a wonderful thing when you hear people give those testimonials. You can go to MeetRx and see tons of testimonials. You can type in on YouTube and see tons of testimonials of people who get this mental clarity and their anxiety and their depression lifts. Sometimes depression and anxiety that they've had their whole lives. That is one of the most important non-scale victories, is mental health. So if you get some medical tests and your doctor's kind of concerned about what you're doing, but he looks and says, hey, these numbers are pretty good. Your blood sugar is balanced, your insulin's better, your heart rate is better, your blood pressure is better. What have you been doing? Well, I've been doing this way of eating. I suggest you be cautious if you're going to talk to him about this way of eating, because most doctors are pretty close-minded when it comes to it. But they can't argue with the numbers, can they? And when all your numbers start getting better and you have conditions like I had where your metabolic syndrome goes away, I only have one of my 5 symptoms of metabolic syndrome left, and that's my waistline, and it's getting better and better as time goes along. Even though I put on that 20 pounds, my waistline didn't go up. So I know I didn't put on 20 pounds of lean mass, but I know how my clothes fit and they feel good. Your doctor should be happy when your blood sugar and your insulin are more balanced, because when your blood sugar is more balanced, your insulin is going to eventually learn to calm down. And when your insulin doesn't have to spike up all the time because you're insulin resistant, you know what happens? You can start losing weight. Lower the sugar, lower the blood sugar. Lower the blood sugar, you lower your insulin spikes. Lower your insulin spikes, your body starts letting you use fat as fuel. And that's a non-scale victory. So I'm curious. I want to know some of your non-scale victories. Please leave a comment, type it in the comment section. I want to understand and hear what your non-scale victories are. Tell the world. Let people see what kind of victories you've had doing this zero-carb carnivore way of eating. It's going to build other people up. When you talk about the relief that you've had going to a carnivore diet, it will inspire other people to give it a shot and hopefully turn their life around and their health around if they have some health problems. I think one of the best things about this is how I feel better day to day. My inflammation is better. My joints feel better. That's one of my favorite non-scale victories. My joints feel better eating this way. And along with that, the weight loss comes. So thanks for watching this video. If you like it, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot and take care.